Dear friends, in today's first reading, the Acts of the Apostles, we have a person of Roman origin, Cornelius, from Italian cohort. When Peter arrives, he comes and worships Peter. Actually we know that worship only belongs to God, not for human beings. But why this person, who is not a Jew, but he comes and worships Peter? Of course, Peter corrects him and says, I'm only a man. Now, why is that? Because the resurrection event, the message of Christ preached by the apostles, reached far and wide, even among the Gentiles. They were mesmerized by this message of love. And that is why this man most probably sees in Peter practically the face of Jesus Christ, who was kind and forgiving. And that is why he falls at his feet, worshipping him. And then later, Peter very clearly says, God does not do any partiality. He does not do any partiality towards the Christians, towards the Hindus, towards the Muslims, towards the Jews. Every nation, every person who fears God and does the right thing is acceptable to God. So he was in Jerusalem, and Peter says these words. Every person, every nation that fears God and does the right thing can be saved. It's a very clear indication to us today in the first reading. And we know the love of Christ that was spreading because of the message of the resurrection in the Acts of the Apostles. It is so beautiful to read those events that surround the love of Christ and preaching of the apostles. Now, when we look at the second reading, a marvelous affirmation on the part of John the Apostle. God is love. Dear friends, we need to understand this very clear, short statement. God is love. John does not say God has love. God is love. Someone said God is the three-letter word for love, and love is the four-letter word for God. So there is God is love. So God is fullness. And then in order to know God, we must love. Otherwise we will not be able to know God. We need to love one another in order to understand who God is. It is not through reading books, through reading theological reflections or philosophy that we understand God. According to John, in order to know God, we must love one another. Now, gospel passage, very powerful today. Actually, the whole chapters 14 to 17 from John's gospel speak to us of farewell discourse of Jesus during the Last Supper. Now, here in John's gospel, we do not find the institution of the Holy Eucharist, rather a long discourse. Of course, it is accompanied with the washing of the feet of the apostles. Now, what do we understand from this discourse, and specifically John chapter 15, verse 9 to 17? A very important teaching for us all Christians, because that summarizes the essence of our existence as Christians. Love. Love one another. As I have loved the Father, as I have loved you, Father has loved me. Abide in my love. Abiding in Jesus' love. That is last Sunday's gospel passage. I am the vine, you are the branches. If the branches are not one with me, you cannot bear fruit. And therefore, you need to abide in me. So, abiding in Jesus, being one with Jesus. What does that tell us? Dear friends, one thing we clearly understand, in the sacrament of marriage, Jesus very clearly said, When a man leaves his father and mother, and the woman leaving her father and mother, they come together, they become one flesh. They are not two. That is the mystery of marriage. Now when Jesus says, I abide in the Father, and Father abides in me, you abide in me, and I abide in you, it is a beautiful symbolism of friendship, practically compared to a marriage union. So that is what abiding is. And Jesus says, I share all these things with you so that my joy may be complete. Dear friends, when we share our love with others, there is a kind of thing happening. There is a complete joy. Have you noticed it? If you keep yourself for something that you own, you don't share it with others. You don't have that joy. You may have security, satisfaction, and some kind of confidence. But you may not have that joy. But when we share with others what we have, and ultimately love, that's why Jesus sharing his knowledge, his relationship with the Father, with his apostles, disciples, so that their joy may be complete. He continues to say, there is no greater love than laying down one's life for one's friends. How can we understand that? Can we say that, oh, I love you, cut my neck. I want to die for you, cut my neck. I love you so much. I want to die for you. There is no greater love than laying down one's life for one's friends, dear friends. If there is no sacrifice in love, what is the sacrifice? I need to lose myself in order that the other person may live. That happens in marriage, right? If you don't lose yourself, the other person fails to live. Now with that we can understand very clearly how the parents die practically every day to give a wonderful future and life for their children. They lose their comforts, they lose their comfort zone, all the joys they had in order to sacrifice for their children. That is what dying to oneself. There is no greater love than laying down one's life for one's friends. God so loved the world that He sent His only Son so that those who believe in Him may not perish but may have eternal life. He died on the cross for us. Now the second step, Jesus says in this experience of love, I call you friends. Why does He call His disciples or apostles friends? Friendship brings equality between the friends. Now let us imagine, there are three words for defining, the traditional three words for defining love. First type we can speak of eros. Eros is a relationship between woman and man, husband and wife. But then that should not remain only eros. It should culminate in friendship. As they grow, as they become old, they have settled their children, what happens? They become real friends. They don't remain husband and wife. Of course, principally and legally they remain husband and wife. But in their culminating experience of love, they are friends. There is another love called philia. That is the love between parents and children, children and parents. Now, as the children grow, they become friends with their parents. I can just imagine 65, 70 years old man has his father who is 105 years old. Legally, they are father and son. Principally in the society, father and son. What is the culmination of their love? Is becoming friends. You might have heard people saying, my father is my best friend. Have you heard that? My mother is my best friend. Have you heard of that? That is where the love culminates. The third is called agape. That is the culminating love. Agape is love between the friends. There is equality. In Christianity, there is no one person is lower and another person is higher. All of us are on the equal footing, equal people, husband and wife, children and parents as they grow. In love, they are equal. That is what we call agape, sharing. Very clearly when Jesus says, I call you friends. Why? Because I have disclosed to you everything that I have learned and heard from my Father. Otherwise, I would not have told you. That is why I am your friend. I share with you. The last part of the gospel is very interesting. Dear friends, when we think about our vocation, we need to fix in our mind something that is very, very essential. What is that? If I were to tell you, I chose to become a priest, I am quite wrong. If you say that you have chosen a vocation, it is not you who have chosen a vocation. It is God who has chosen that for you. Very clearly Jesus says, I chose you, you have not chosen me. That means what? Christian mission and life is God's mission making it complete or accomplish. That is our mission. Otherwise, we will be always telling to ourselves, I try my hard, I work hard to become a holy person. Can you become a holy person by trying hard? No, it is God's grace. It is God's choice. On the way, we will fall, falter, we will stumble, we will become weak. But then there is God's choice. God has chosen you. That is a powerful affirmation on the part of Jesus. I have chosen you. You have not chosen me. And finally, dear friends, in order to understand what is love, we need to deeply comprehend the mystery of forgiveness. When Peter came and asked Jesus, Lord, how many times should I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Is it 7 times? Jesus said, Peter, not 7 times, 70 times 7. Well, I would like to find out whether Jesus practiced what he preached. Did he practice what he preached? After the resurrection, at the Sea of Tiberias, when he met Peter, did he call Peter and said, Peter, come here. I gave you authority. I appointed you leader among the apostles. I gave you the keys of God's kingdom. I made you walk on water. But then you denied me 3 times, Peter. You denied me 3 times. Did Jesus tell that? He did not tell that. He asked Peter, Peter, do you love me? Peter answered, yes, Lord, I love you. Again he asked, Peter, do you love me? He said, yes, Lord, I love you. He asked again, Peter, do you love me? You know, Lord, I love you. And Jesus said, take care of my lambs. That is the secret of love. Definitely when we say, I love you, I love you, I love you, but you do not forgive your neighbor, your family member, your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband. You do not forgive. And you say, I love you, I love you. That does not express the fullness of love that Jesus has manifested to us. In order to love, we need to know from Jesus the spirit of forgiveness. That is why, because Jesus loved, he died on the cross for us. Let us ask the Lord today in a very special way, meditating on all these 3 readings, which are so beautiful for our reflection and meditation, that unless we love one another, we cannot show that we love God. Jesus affirmed very clearly to that learned man who approached him, which is the greatest commandment? Jesus says, love your neighbor, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Let us ask the Lord for the grace to understand the mystery of love, that we truly love one another and learn to love God, who has manifested his face through Jesus Christ, who is love himself. God bless you.